Okay, hi. That's not the moon there. That's just a spotlight. I'm in the basement here. Anyway, um, a quick video here on Monday night to highlight last week's lessons about financial leadership, and speaking this week about week 14, alternative sources of funding, and a little bit about the final. Okay, so week 13 and financial leadership. Essentially, the readings are pretty straightforward in the financial leadership book, but what's really neat is the way you can crosswalk between those principles, pretty straightforward, that are in the financial leadership readings and the actions taken by Terry Ann Lunt in part 2 of our case study. And Taylor did a fabulous job of crosswalking between the elements that are in the financial leadership readings and the actions that Terry Ann Lunt took. So if you did not read her post, I commend you to do so, because she had just a spot-on initial post that was really good. And not only because of its content, but because of the way she goes back and forth between the theory of the readings and the real-life application in the case study. Hopefully that's what you folks have all been able to gain from this course, right? The principles and the how-tos of financial management are not that hard. Just like all management and all theory is not that hard, but what's really hard is seeing it in real life and being able to apply the rules or the decision-making rules of theory to reality in a way that actually makes your reality better. That's the trick of being a great doer, if you will, as opposed to just an academic person who can say what the theories are but has trouble applying it to real life. Okay, enough of that diversion. Let's see. This week we're going to be talking about alternative sources of funding for nonprofits. And right from day one we've talked about no money, no mission. So where do you get your money from? There's a great study there about the travails of working with government contracts and government agencies. And I'll dare say that when I started really working as a nonprofit manager, really started working with with governments in the late 90s, government funding was really undependable. It's gotten much better, but in the readings this week about the 2010 study that Elizabeth Boris and her staff do, you note that there are still issues to be had with government funding. And that reading speaks for itself. A great read. But beyond that, and because of government funding having some issues with it, and frankly, government funding decreasing, initially because of the Great Recession of 2007-8 there, and now sort of in the, I won't call it the age of Trump, but it looks like there's a continuing squeeze on federal dollars as well. So it's unclear, if and where nonprofits are going to be able to rely on government funding going forward. Remember back in our first couple of lessons we talked about a quarter of nonprofit funding comes from government grants. So it's a sizable funding source. This all works around toward the need for nonprofits to think creatively about how they're going to get money or funding for their mission, And the other thing we learned early on, right, was that about half of all nonprofit revenues are from earned income, fee for services. So it leads people to think about social enterprises and nonprofits making a profit that they then plow back into their mission and into their organization. So there are some readings there about social enterprises. I understand that there are some readings that are mentioned in parts of either the lecture, that aren't actually available to you. So in an email, I'm going to send you the Jennifer Jones article. In a separate email, I'm also going to send you a paper I wrote back in 2010 about how nonprofits might be able to generate rivers of revenue by collaborating with for-profit companies that are socially responsible, social enterprises maybe, run by private sector companies. And frankly, that paper inspired me to start my own social enterprise. It's called Jeff's Granola. Just recently changed the name, actually. And if you're at all interested, you can go to this website and you can see what I'm up to. Okay? And if anybody's really, really interested, you can give me a call and, we can talk about anything you'd like. Okay? I think that's all. No, we got to get to the really important piece. I've given you the case study that your final is based upon a week early. It's the Akron Zoo case study. And the reason why I've given it to you early is because, one, it's a long case study. It has, 10, 11 pages of prose, and then it has about another 10 pages of appendices. A lot of that is financial data, but other appendices really have to do with the operations of the zoo and other operational and programmatic aspects of the zoo that do have impact on its finances. So one reason, right, I'm giving it to you early is because it's long and it's sort of complicated. The second reason why I'm giving it to you early is so that you can read it a number of times. Reading it once and trying to write your final will get you most likely nowhere. So take your time, read it, put it aside, read it, put it aside, read it. Because only by really sort of digging into this case study will you actually be able to do well on the final. Okay? The one thing about this case study is that it's more like real life, and by that I mean there are no obvious glaring problems with the zoo. It's sort of chugging along, or it appears like it's chugging along, but if you look really closely, you'll see that there are some great opportunities for it, but also some potential pitfalls for it as well. And so it's like real life in that a lot of nonprofits just sort of chug along, but they don't, and therefore it's really hard to figure out, where do my real opportunities lie? And since we're sort of just chugging along, we're doing okay, we don't always appreciate the pitfalls that are waiting for us in the future. So with that warning, and maybe I've spoken too long, please take time to read it a number of times this week before you try to dig into it next week and actually write your paper. Okay? Guess that's all for now. Hope things are well with you, and I'll see you online. And again, if anybody ever wants to talk to me, right? 413-237-7475. Okay? All right. Thanks. Take care.